On today's episode of Women of Impact, the incredibly awe-inspiring Sarah Jakes Roberts here and sharing her darkest battles.
I don't feel smart, I don't feel worthy, I don't feel valuable. This is my truth.
And how her struggles of self-worth, value, and self-esteem when she fell pregnant at the young age of just 14.
Whoa! I can remember saying, I can do better than this. I can do better than this.
As a very public daughter of the famous pioneer, Bishop T.D. Jakes, she talks about everything from overcoming shame, judgment, self-betrayal, and toxic relationships.
I know that I am betraying myself to be in relationship with someone. Then I have to ask myself, what am I receiving to them that is so valuable that I am willing to betray myself?
A New York Times bestselling author of Women Evolve, she is here to be the most beautiful example that your past doesn't ever define your future. I need to let that sit. That was so powerful, girl. Welcome to Women of Impact with the ever-evolving powerhouse, Sarah Jakes Roberts. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Oh, thank you for having me. I am so excited.
Oh my God, me too. I've read your book. It is freaking amazing.
And that I bring value to that space. That I'm not just there because someone else couldn't come, or I'm not just there because they didn't find someone better, but that I bring value no matter where I am. And I feel like so many times women go into a space wanting someone to validate their existence or for someone to give them validation and worth. And yet self-worth is believing in the value that I bring when I come into a room or space.
Okay, that's amazing. So how on earth do you go from someone that doesn't have self-worth to being able to so freaking articulate what it means to you?
Okay, so I am coming from someone who didn't believe that I had a lot of worth or value. And it was because of what I had gone through. I felt like because I'm a teen mom, because I'm a divorcee, because I dropped out of college, I am not as valuable as the person who doesn't have scars. It wasn't until I really began to examine my scars that I realized the wisdom, the ability for me to talk to different people in different spaces. My scars actually added to my value. It didn't subtract from my value. And so I began to learn that I can go into spaces that maybe other people couldn't go into. The only reason why I'm talking to you today is because of the very thing that I thought didn't give me value. The only reason why I'm able to connect with the women I've been blessed to connect with is because of the very thing that I thought took away from my value. But I do think that it takes confronting our scars, confronting our experiences, and gleaning the wisdom and the lessons and compassion connected to those moments in our life.
Okay, so how then, or where do we even start, right? Because that is so beautiful and I completely agree.
Sure.
But take me back to that moment where, so you were 13,
Yeah.
you fall pregnant, and I'm sure everything you just said didn't feel real at that time, right?
Absolutely not.
So take me through that, how you managed to really keep going.
Okay.
And then how you started to pass through your mental, emotional state to be able to get to the point where you can now look back and say, I wouldn't be sitting here. Because it's beautiful to say things
Sure.
in hindsight, right? But right now I think about that one person, that is struggling just how you were. Yeah. What are the things that we can say or that you can say that can really shake them to believe, hey, this is what you can do. I've done it too. So take me back to the very start, if you will.
Okay. I got pregnant at 13. I had my son at 14 years old. And I wish that I could tell you that I started healing and forgiving myself in that moment, but I didn't. I was so ashamed. I was so afraid that other people wouldn't see my worth or my value that I wanted to pile other things on top of that truth. So my truth was that I got pregnant as a teenager, but I wanted my truth to also be that I graduated high school early, that I got the marriage, that I had the white picket fence, because I felt like if I add some good truth, then maybe the truth that stings won't sting as badly. What I learned is that it still stung. No matter what I tried to achieve, it still stung. No matter the marriage, the white picket fence, the achievements, it still stung. And so it wasn't until I did, as we do when we go to a doctor, and really started pinpointing, where does it hurt the most? What is it about this experience that hurts the most? What are the thoughts connected to what happened in your life that are now becoming a part of your actions and your self-worth? And when I started thinking, well, okay, I don't think that I really deserve a good relationship. I don't think that I am as valuable or as smart as the woman beside me. People would tell me that I was smart growing up, and I was like, smart girls don't get pregnant at an early age. And so I had to really come to this space where I realized I don't feel smart, I don't feel worthy, I don't feel valuable. This is my truth. And as painful as that was to say, it was also liberating because I took the whisper that was haunting me and taunting me throughout my life and finally gave it a voice. And when I finally gave it a voice, I had to ask myself, now, do you want to think like this, act like this, and believe like this for the rest of your life? Who would you be if you did not believe this? Who would you be if you felt like, you know what, there's nothing I can do to change it, but what do I want to do with what I have leftovers? Everything we're going to do in our life is going to happen with leftovers. Our dream, our ambition, our purpose is beautiful, but you know the ingredients, our leftovers. And so whether your leftover is you're a widow or you're a single mother or you dropped out of school, when you look at your leftovers, you get to say, what meal do I want to create with what I have left? And am I willing to do the work to put it together?
Whoa. I'd never heard it be said like that before. That really hit me. The leftovers. Wow, girl.
Oh, girl, all the power is in the leftovers. Anyone who we've ever admired, if we really listen at their story and choose to not be blinded by their achievements, then we will hear that everything happened with their leftovers. That they said, well, this is what I have left. And so I took it and I decided to start the business in my garage, or I took it and I decided to write the book with my computer. The leftovers are where all the glory is.
I've never heard it. That was so fire. The leftovers, that's so empowering, because in those moments where you're struggling and you're judging the leftovers, where you want to get rid of the leftovers, you want to hide the leftovers, you want to trash it. It's the reframe. I'm such a fan of perspective is everything, right? It's if you think something is bad, then you will act in accordance. If you think something is beautiful, then you will act in accordance. So reframing the leftovers is amazing. And I love what you were talking about of letting the whispers speak. And I've heard you talk, I think you call it, you let the poison speak.
The poison. You know, I came to this epiphany. I thought that I had been in a toxic relationship with an individual, and I realized that the poison really started with me. That I had my own poison, that my insecurities were constantly pumping into my veins, that fear was constantly pumping into my veins. And I realized that as long as I was poison, I could only attract poison. And the only way to get poison out is to begin to speak and allow it to come out of you so that you can see just how toxic my thoughts are, just how toxic this false confidence is, this false positivity is. And now that I have it out there, now I have room to just be authentic and real about where I am. And that way I can be transformed. A lot of times we ask for transformation, but we only want the transformation to be connected to this false version of who we are. But transformation is about authenticity. And the more real, the more authentic, the more vulnerable you can be, the more opportunity we have to transform those leftovers into glory.
And as you're talking, I love the analogies and things that you're saying, like the purge you said, it kind of made me think about when you have food poisoning. What is the first thing you do? You throw it all up, you get rid of it.
Got to get it out of me. I got to get it out of me. I feel like even like maybe someone's watching, right? And they're like, I've been holding this in for so long. This pain, this insecurity, this fear, it's been inside of me too long because I'm afraid if I let it out that I don't know who I'll become. I'm afraid if I let it out that it'll make a big mess. Well, girl, we know how to clean up messes. Let it all out. Let it all out. Let it pour. Let it purge. Get it all out of you. And then we can begin to clean up what is left over after you have these moments. But it's not doing you any well staying inside of you.
Okay. So when allowing the poison to come in. In those moments, it doesn't feel great, right? It really does. You're having to face yourself. You're having to face your own ego, the own negative thoughts. And in those moments, our instinct really is to just stop. How do you advise people to encourage them? Like, even though the pain is real right now, keep going because you will get to the other end.
Because if we don't do this, though, we're denying ourselves a part of our truth, a part of our identity. Just because we don't confront it doesn't mean that it's not a part of us. And to live divided is to say, I don't want to confront it. I'm going to stop the process and only show up in this one space of who I am. And then yet we want someone who comes into our life and we want them to make us feel whole, or we want to be confident about every part of our life, but we only live in this divided part of ourselves. And so I always challenge people to say that, like, you have to fall more in love with you than you do with the potential outcome that you're achieving or looking to achieve. Because when you fall in love with all of you, even the parts of you that are divided, it does change the way you walk into a space. You know, I really do believe that our strength is in our ruins. And yet, if we divide ourselves from our ruins, then we don't know our strength. We'll think, I can't take another blow. I can't take another hit. Well, you could take another blow and take another hit if you learned the lessons from the last blows and last hits. You learn how to duck and weave better, okay? Yeah. You know how to lift and prepare for the battle better. You know how to think when you go into a space. But that takes inventory.
Oh, God, yeah. It's interesting because we don't give ourselves permission to really do that with our mind, but we do with other things, right? If you're going to practice, it's like, oh, public speaking. Okay, yeah, you're going to get up, you're going to practice, you're going to do it time and time again. But we almost don't treat that with our own mindset and the way that we think.
I totally agree. I think it goes back to this idea of, I'm afraid that if I look into this, that I won't feel worthy, or that I will feel silly or not smart. And so I am so afraid of not feeling worthy that I don't even want to look at the things that actually make me feel less worthy.
Yeah. So how do you start to change that? I heard you say, oh God, it was an amazing quote. I'm going to grab it. The greatest enemy lies between your ears.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. It's the voices that exist within our own mind that cause us the most torment. People ask me all the time, like, how do you deal with trolls on social media, or people who say, you know, not so nice things on social media? And for me, the comments that sting the worst are the ones that echo an insecurity I already had. Now, if someone comes on my page and they're like, the sky is orange, I'm like, you're crazy. You have no idea what you're talking about. But someone comes on and they say something that really hurts my feelings. It echoes an insecurity I already had. And so I really do believe that really taking inventory, right, of what are the thoughts in my mind, and listen, what are the roots connected to those thoughts? Where did that thought come from? Did someone speak something over me when I was in school and I took that negative thought and allowed it to become my truth? Did my parents say something to me and I took that negative thought and allowed it to become truth? I talk about in the book how someone told me, I always knew to expect something like this out of you when I got pregnant. And it changed everything I thought about myself, because I said, I must be projecting something that makes other people feel like they can expect, you know, certain behaviors out of me. And I allowed that to live in my head until I kind of did the work to find the roots.
Oh my God. Okay. So I really want to just highlight what you just said there. So when you were younger, you get pregnant, someone turns around to you and says, I always expected something like this out of you.
Yeah.
Okay. Just take a deep breath. That's really hard to hear. I'm sure it's hard for me to hear you say it, let alone as you as a kid at the age of 13 hearing that. So that's actually where I'd love to go, is about identity, is about people trying to put us in a bucket. And you've even said that you put yourself in a bucket. You would call yourself the teen mom. Yeah. And over time, like you'd said earlier in this interview, that you try to then replace that with, well, hang on, I'm also a college graduate. I'm also this. How do you block out that voice, or start to say that person that comes to you and says, oh, this is what you meant to be?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that process of how you heard that, how you were someone that didn't have any self-worth whatsoever, that really did think that they were teen mom, that they, you know, are they meant for any more? Someone's telling them that day in and day out.